Hi YouTube, my name is Latricia and this is my new channel, Blow the Trumpet, and I have had this channel up for several years now, but it hasn't been seen by anyone because it took me a while to realize that I guess I have to record a live video to upload to the channel in order to make it live. At least I hope that's the case. So once I figure out how to upload this video, maybe you guys can see all the other videos that I've shared on this channel. So once again, hello, and I have chosen to make this video about me leaving the Seventh-day Adventist Church. So I'm going to give you my testimony. Just a little religious background for me. I grew up as a missionary Baptist. Hello to the church members at Holy Chapel Missionary Baptist Church in Compton, California. And as a child, I was one of those kids that spent a lot of time at church. I was in the choir and I was on the usher board, so I was there quite a bit. I gave my life to Yahuwah when I was 8 years old, and I fully understood, the sacrifice that the one that we call Jesus made for me, and I trusted him to guide my life at that point, and I got baptized at that time. But by the time I got to junior high, we had actually kind of stopped going to church. We weren't active in church basically at all. Although I still believed in the one that we call God and Jesus and felt like I was still a Christian, I didn't study the Bible. I didn't do Bible studies. We didn't go to church at all. And that lasted until actually after I had my daughter. And once I had my daughter, I decided that I wanted to strengthen my relationship with my Creator. And so I started going back to church. But at that time, I was doing a lot of moving around across the country. I've lived in several different states. And I wasn't really settled, so I didn't have what you would call a church home. So I, went to churches where I felt, something was going on there, something that touched me inside, my spirit, but I still didn't really know my Bible. I didn't know how to study the Bible, and I still kind of don't know how to do that. And I didn't have a really clear understanding of why I believed the way that I believed. I just know, the things that I've heard people preach on, and I assume that people that are up before the congregation were learned people and knew what they were talking about. And so I trusted in that, and I kind of trusted in their study of the word and their interpretation of the word. And when I landed in North Carolina, I actually got a flyer in the mail for a prophecy seminar, and I was really interested in end-time prophecy. So I decided to go to the prophecy seminar. At that time, I was watching Jack Van Impe. I don't know how many people know who he is, but he has a program. I'm assuming that it's still on. He has a program that it's all about end time prophecy and newspaper theology. Pretty much, he and his wife, they kind of compare the things that's going on in the news to what the Bible is, what Bible prophecy is saying. So I pretty much followed his program, and I had read all of the Left Behind books, thinking that, this was sticking close to Bible prophecy. I had read through Revelation as a teenager. I didn't really understand what was going on in the book, but I did read through it. I also, as a child, had seen evangelistic movies like also, I'm going to be looking at some notes that I've written down to try to keep me on track. I remember watching a movie called A Distant Thunder. And there were, I think, 2 other movies that came after that movie, like sequels to that movie. And I've seen other movies dealing with the topic of end time prophecy, things that were supposed to happen at the end of the world, how we're going to be persecuted, Christians are going to be persecuted, how we're going to have to run and hide, and that we were going to be raptured up at the end of this tumultuous time that we're going to have on the earth at the end. So it's kind of like the same theme of the Left Behind series of books. So I was very interested in end time prophecy, and that flyer was right up my alley. So I did go to the prophecy seminar, and at first they didn't specify what church it was that was putting on the prophecy seminar, but then a couple of days or maybe a week later we found out that it was a Seventh-day Adventist church. And I stayed for the entire thing, and I had heard of Seventh-day Adventists before because one of my friends in high school, he and his family were Seventh-day Adventists, and I do, while going through that prophecy seminar, I do remember having that friend from high school and how his parents, they were a lovely family, and they would always tell me and my brother about the Sabbath and how the churches had gotten away from that and had changed the day to Sunday, the day of worship to Sunday, the day of rest to Sunday. So I accepted that as the truth even at that time. But, at that time, we weren't at church at all. So it didn't matter to us what day it was. The day of rest and worship was on either way because we weren't going to church. So years later, I remember watching a program on BET called Amazing Facts. And the minister on that program would always talk about the Sabbath and And once again, I accepted that as truth, but I didn't switch. At that time that I was watching Amazing Facts, I was back in church as a young adult, and I was going to church on Sunday, and I remember asking the question, what about this Saturday Sabbath thing? And I don't remember getting an answer from anybody. Like, this ended up being kind of like a mini mega church. So it's not like I could go and ask the pastor one-on-one. He always had people around him, and I was still fairly new to this church. And so I was still like in new member classes. And so I don't remember getting an answer to any questions about that at that time. And at that time I was living in Illinois. And then we moved to North Carolina, and that's where I got that flyer in the mail for that prophecy seminar. And so went through the seminar, and my mind kind of got blown by all of these supposed truths that were being revealed, not just about the Sabbath, but about end time prophecy. They finally got to end time prophecy. They first started off with church history. They went through church history, the Reformation, the importance of the Sabbath, and then they got to end time prophecy and all of the movements that are happening in our government, and the way things are, shaking out seems to be bolstering the fact that we're going to go through some hard times as Christians at the end of the world. And they said that we're moving towards a one world government and one world religion. And the way to differentiate between the real Christians and the rest of Christianity, who's going to fall under this new world order, would be the Sabbath. Ultimately, it's going to be it's going to come down between knowing who to persecute because of the non-compliance of certain Christians, and the non-compliance would be not complying with the world religion mandate of going to church on, or having your corporate worship being on Sunday when the actual Sabbath is on Saturday. So that's how I ended up getting into the Seventh-day Adventist Church. I mean, I felt like I learned all these truths that I didn't know before, and I was actually rebaptized into the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And I'm just checking out my notes. Also, along with the Sabbath, the Seventh-day Adventist Church is very big on the obedience of the Ten Commandments. So they're a very big proponent of being obedient to the Ten Commandments, and the chief of that is the Sabbath. Okay, and then I'm going to talk about what led me out of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Now, at this point, it's actually been 2 years since I have decided not to be a Seventh-day Adventist again, or Adventist anymore. I haven't been in I haven't actually been a member of a actual church for, I would say, more than 10 years.